blows away my expectations in terms of its story, its characters, its atmosphere, all while simultaneously completely taking advantage of the medium of anime. And that's exactly what's going on in the brand new series Inuyashiki. This is a show that I went into completely, and I was really intimidated by it at first, because when there's a show that has like a hardcore Japanese name that's kind of hard to pronounce, I'm immediately turned off. I'm afraid that the overall premise of the show is actually pretty simple enough. It's about these two characters. There's this one old dude whose name is Ichiro Inuyashiki, and he's this old guy who's looked down on his family. His doctors have basically just declared him dead. Yashiki's life is just crap. Everything. Until one fateful evening, freaking jetpacks, the whole nine. They've been turned into they seem all that interesting, but what is most fascinating is getting to see the paths that these two characters are going on. An old downtrodden man whose family doesn't care about him anymore, and suddenly he has the power to get back at them, but instead he actually decides to become a hero, and in revealing his powers for the very kids. This is all told in the very first episode of the series. In fact, the first two episodes are dedicated to each character in a way. In the first episode, I didn't see this series going that crazy in terms of its over-the-top and violent nature. The intro should have been an episode left me with this good feeling of getting to see this old man who has a new lease on life, and he's going to use it to make mankind a better place. Watching his journey into becoming the main character of the series is shocking enough as is. How often do we see an old man like this be the main character of an anime series? It's completely bold for them to make a choice like this, and at this moment I was completely hooked. That and just the amazing production value which was presented in the first episode, which is stellar beyond belief. I love seeing some over-exaggerated anime series like, say, Dragon Ball or even One Piece. One Piece. One Piece fans are going to actually love this series. Not because it has anything to do with One Piece, but just all of the outrageous references they actually had to that. And he finds out he has superpowers in his room in this really funny scene when suddenly all of this steam just crazy, ridiculous gun and then goes back to normal. And then he's able to literally open up his head in the atmosphere. The first thing I said to myself was, this kind of reminds me of like a combination of Parasite and Gantz. And that totally makes sense, because apparently this series was created by we have the scene with the homeless man who's being attacked by all of these crazy kids who are literally trying to burn him alive with fireworks. It is so friggin' messed up. And then this old man just comes along, gets up into the back of his head, and initiates this sequence where all of these like weird lasers explode out of lethal. It just manages to scare them away, but most importantly, this eye actually scans all of these children, gets their names, identities, and rats them out to the police. It is such a triumphant moment for this man. And I think the scene that was the cherry on top, he's afraid that he's lost his humanity. He can no longer cry anymore. And at the very end of the episode, after a really awesome old man cyborg, it's a fantastic introduction to the series. The first episode is all about Inuyashiki, you know that. But what about the other guy who had these powers? Hiro Sociopath. Because unlike Inuyashiki, he's actually using his powers to straight up just go on killing sprees and killing people at random. It's just about it, because the first episode is surprisingly pleasant despite all the crazy things that are going on. Who is this very weird teenage student who is obsessed with manga to a point where it almost becomes laughable, especially for fans of One Piece. We'll get to it in a second. So there's this great scene where this character, Hiro, I'm just going to refer to him as Hiro because from school, and he casually just hangs out with them like normal, reading the One Piece manga series and even crying over the epicness of the chapter. And then suddenly he starts to talk to his friend, like the guy who is sleeping could very well be this killer, until eventually Hiro does reveal that he is the one who has these crazy robot powers, and his friend is totally along for the ride because he's such a big fan of manga and anime, and he even has Gantz posters all over his room, which is like this really subtle way of the creator saying, hey, read Gantz. Funny. That and just his overall commentary on One Piece as well, which, like I said, we'll get to that in just a second. But basically, Hiro decides to take his friend out and get him some fresh air and show him all of his stuff, where he decides to cause this like massive car crash with all these cars with his crazy powers, almost like a mad freaking composer. It's so insane. Like, he just points in the direction a little uncomfortable, and you realize that this guy is pretty freaking messed up. But at the same time, his friend is still willing to stay with him because he's just so excited over the prospect of something like this happening. Quite possibly one of the most visually disturbing things that I've ever seen in an anime. Right through her, and then proceeds to shoot her corpse multiple times. That's not even the basically, he's trying to learn how far his humanity has gone at this point. Is he even human anymore? Does he have emotions? Will he be swept by the emotions of other people? That's why he tells this father who is begging for his son's life in the bed, like he's just pointing right at him the whole time. He shoots him a couple times, which leads to such a visually disturbing scene of watching this guy bleed out into the tub, which initially is just clear water, and then on his son, who ends up drowning under his father in the blood-filled tub. This scene really freaked me out. I was watching this freaky things that I have ever freaking seen in an anime series, and I didn't even know if I wanted to go any further, but I just wanted to see what was going to happen next, and it just kept getting worse. The freaking daughter gets home and realizes that her family is dead. Some crazy cyborg man had just tortured and killed her entire family, and then she's put up against, like, his weird gun finger, and he starts to just talk to her casually as if nothing even happened at all, asking at first if she's truly upset about the death of her family, and then asking, creepily enough, if she's a fan of manga. And he even asks, are you a fan of One Piece? And they end up having this really small conversation about One Piece and what their favorite characters are. They even name drop Zoro. It's so disturbing. You can tell that this guy has, like, some sort of weird bipolar personality where he, like, switches between, like, the really nice guy who likes talking about manga and anime just to be really close to him, or if he's just always going to hear every single time he's about to kill a victim. But he's in traffic, and unfortunately he's too late. The girl is killed. He arrives at the house, and he sees this kid standing in the hallway who thinks he's just the grandpa of the family, and then he proceeds to shoot Inuyashiki. But because he is a crazy extraterrestrial cyborg man, he actually just gets up, and then that's the end of the episode. Right there. That's the first 2 episodes of the... I regret not, like, seeing when it first initially released, just so I could get my true impressions of it. This is my review of both of those episodes, so it's hard to contain it all into one single video. But man, believe me when I say, this is going to be one of the biggest anime hits of all time. So, what's the rundown on the first 2 episodes of Inuyashiki? Spider-Man phrase, with great power comes great responsibility. Some people are going to be given people, and this is definitely a character study for that, but I can't wait to see how far this is going to clash with one another. They're going to have some epic confrontations, and their powers are perfect. I can't even really do it justice, the amount of metaphorical things that you see Old Man's face literally fall from space onto Earth like a freaking meteorite. There are so many crazy things in the intro that you have to watch it again and again. And it's made even better by the fact that the music for the intro was done by Man with a Mission, who I honestly believe these guys do some of the best intros in the, like, entire anime biz. Like, not necessarily the shows they do them for are great. Like, I think Log Horizon sucks, but I absolutely love the intro. They also did the intro for Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, and here their music is just perfect for the intro. It pumps you up. I've watched it more than I've watched the actual episodes. I actually like it that much. What I most love about this series is how it's breaking tradition, how we have a main character who is just this, like, weird old man. I've never seen anything like that in any other anime. I mean, sure, I've seen weird old men characters, like side characters and everything, but the main character of a series? I never thought I would do that. And maybe Hiro's going to end up being the main character. It's kind of hard to say. They're probably going to jump back and forth a lot between these two, but I can't wait to see them have robot bodies in the first place. Considering it's from the creator of Gantz, it might not make much sense by the end of the series. And I loved the self-awareness of this thing. In the first episode, there's the scene where Inuyashiki goes to his new home, and one of his neighbors, his name is Oda. And he apparently is either the actual author of One Piece, or this is the son of the author of One Piece. And in the second episode, it's kicked up to 11 with the character of Hiro, who's not only a fan of reading manga, but One Piece in particular. He names... It's really funny, and it also paints the character as an even more creepy individual. The fact, apply it to, like, a weird, freaky serial killer, it immediately makes them a lot more creepy, and I'm not sure why, but it just does. Man, guys, I don't even know what more to say about these first 2 episodes, aside from I just can't wait to see what's going to happen in them. and I hope to see more of this incredible quality. I loved these first 2 episodes, even with some of the weird, wonky CG animation. I can't wait to see the journey that this old man and this crazy teenager are going to go on. It's going to be really great. So the first 2 episodes, in my opinion, were both perfect. You know, and they're not even, like, action-packed or anything, but, like, the story, the characters, and the atmosphere. Oh, the atmosphere in this series is just dripping. If it's not the amazing artwork, it's the music and just the characters themselves. This was a great anime experience, and you guys deserve to check it out. So make sure to watch Inuyashiki. First 2 episodes for me are 5 out of 5s. I loved both of them. But I want to hear from you guys. Make sure to tell me what you guys thought of the very first... make that the first 2 episodes of Inuyashiki. Tell me what you thought about them in the comments section. Did you like them as much as I did? Did you not like them? Were you off-put by how incredibly violent and disturbing things got? What do you hope to see in this epic series about a cyborg old man and a cyborg teenager? Tell me all your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching this review. Make sure to subscribe for more anime and manga reviews. And of course, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. I'll see you next time. And as always... stay dandy, baby.